Are we ready to go?
Yes, Josie.
Right, thank you. Welcome everybody to this evening's virtual licensing committee hosted by Bassetlaw District Council. Given the current challenging situation we all face following the outbreak of the COVID-19, new legislation has been approved that enables councils to hold virtual meetings rather than requiring members to be present in the committee chambers. When making a decision, this keeps everyone safe by maintaining a social distancing etiquette and allows business to be conducted in an appropriate manner. Thank you. Is there anybody that's having problems at all? I know we've already spoke apart from two of them. And we also have a number of officers in attendance, which is Steve Wormold, Council Solicitor, Roland Wilson, Senior Licensing Officer, James Lavender, Meeting Facilitator, Ellen Inslee, Committee Clerk. If a number of members lose connection and the meeting becomes inquorate or the live streaming for public viewing fails, I shall adjourn the meeting to allow connection to be re-established. Given this is a virtual meeting, there is no corporate responsibility to detail a fire procedure as we ordinarily would. However, I would like to highlight that this committee is being live streamed on social media. So all participants, please be aware of your actions and take appropriate safety precautions from your place of live streaming. Members, please remember to switch off your microphones when not speaking. Also, could you please put your phones on mute? Thank you. Agenda item number 1 is apologies. Are there any apologies, Ellen?
Yes, Chair, we've got apologies from Councillor Jones and Councillor Nichols. Could you just go around all the councillors and just confirm that they can all hear us, though?
Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you.
Jim, can you hear me? Jim Anderson.
Present, Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Clarkson.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Eaton.
Present, Chair.
Councillor Greaves.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Presley.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Richards.
Evening, Chair.
Evening. Councillor Tyndall.
Here, Chair.
Has Councillor Sanger come into the room yet?
She's not joined yet, and neither is Councillor Izzard. We'll let you know if they join the meeting, Chair.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2 is to receive declarations of interest by members and officers. Are there any declarations of interest?
I've not received any, Chair.
Only if a pecuniary interest is declared, any members who have made pecuniary declaration of interest will need to leave the meeting and will be contacted to rejoin after the item in question has been heard. If during the meeting a member realises they have an interest, please disclose this as soon as possible. Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is minutes of the meeting held on the 29th of July 2020 at pages 5 to 8 of your agenda. Are there any comments or observations?
Chairman, Chair. Can the solicitor tell us how many pavement licences they've been granted?
Steve?
Yes. Maybe I could help out on that one, Chair. We've issued, I think there's 5 premise licenses been issued. We have 2 possible applications that are ongoing at the moment.
Thank you. Is that all right, David?
Yeah, where are they, Chairman? Do we know?
sorry, off the top of my head, I can't give you those details, but I'll come back to you before the end of the meeting with those for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Will someone move that we accept those minutes?
Move that, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin. Agenda item number 4 is minutes for action at page 9 in your agenda. Are there any updates on these minutes, please? Steve, are you going to answer this one?
Yes, I am. Yes, obviously we've implemented the scheme to receive applications for pavement licences now, and Roland's obviously just updated you on the numbers that have been granted so far. The process that Roland and the team put in place has worked really well from my point of view, and you know, I'd commend them for getting that in place so quickly, and it's a process that's worked very well to date. So you know, I'd like to extend my thanks to them for doing that.
Thank you, Steve. Did you hear that, David?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
Right, thank you. Agenda item number 5 is the outstanding minutes list at pages 11 in your agenda. This will be addressed once the principal solicitor, licensing and regulatory returns from maternity leave, which is Stella, as you know.
Just
Okay.
to, sorry to interrupt, Chair. Councillor Izzard has joined us.
Oh, that's great.
I've just managed it at last. Thank you.
Thank you. Shirley,
Oh, a bit better now I'm joined in.
bless you. Thank you. Agenda item number 6A is a report of the council solicitor, Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing policy update, following the issue of statutory guidance, pages 13 to 120 of your agenda. Steve, would you like to outline the report, please?
Yes, thanks very much, Chair. Yes, the as you'll see in paragraph 2 of the report, the purpose is to detail how the Department of Transport has issued statutory guidance to all licensing authorities, seeking that they implement statutory taxi and private hire vehicle standards in order to further promote the objectives of safeguarding the safety of the travelling public. And this report sets out the additional proposals included within the statutory guidance that will be in addition to the current Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing policy that should be applied by the council. So I'd just start by saying, and the report does set out from paragraph 3 onwards, that the council does have a very robust Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing policy that was last updated in March 2020, and I think most of the members of the committee will remember introducing that, and it was a big piece of work that the principal solicitor introduced. And you know, I think in general we're satisfied that we do have a very robust policy, and it's proved to be very effective in ensuring that those applicants or licence holders that do not take seriously the need to safeguard children and vulnerable persons or promote the need of public safety and public confidence in the trade are adequately dealt with. The primary and overriding objective should always be protection of the public. Obviously, not all councils work to the same high standards in relation to vetting applicants and monitoring existing licence holders, and I think that's the issue that the Department of Transport is seeking to address in its statutory guidance. It's seeking to get a high level of consistency amongst local authorities nationwide. So paragraph 3.5, you'll see that because the council has already got a very comprehensive policy in place, the additional requirements placed on the council by the statutory standards can be very easily implemented. And these requirements are listed at paragraph 3.6, and they're highlighted in yellow within the draft revised Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing policy. So I'll just take you through those at paragraph 3.6, and the page numbers I'll give you will be the page numbers in your agenda. So the first bullet point is that drivers will have to make a declaration about any previous licences held.
Steve, could I just ask you what page we're on, please?
We're on page 14 of the agenda.
Page 14, right? Fine. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So we're at page 14 and I'm just at paragraph 3.6 at the moment.
Right, thank you. Got that.
And I don't know if members will want to go sort of back and forth to the appendix, but I'll just highlight at 3.6 the things that will be amended and added to our policy if members approve that. So first is drivers will have to make a declaration about any previous licences held. They'll have to notify of any arrest for any sexual offence. They'll have to undertake an enhanced DBS check every 6 months, because we currently carry out these annually. And we'd also check the status of their DVLA driver licence at the same time. There's referrals by licensing to DBS, that's covered. And vehicle licence applicants holders will provide a basic DBS check and it will be reviewed annually to ensure that such person is not involved in any activity that may undermine the safeguarding and public safety objectives. And finally, quite a large amendment to the existing policy is whistleblowing, and we'll put in place a policy where any licensed driver is aware that if any information came to light which may be unlawful, then this can be reported confidentially to the licensing department. This also then goes on to set out the new statutory standards which place new obligations on private hire operators, and they are to maintain a register of all staff whose work consists of taking bookings and dispatching vehicles, and for such staff to undergo a basic DBS check, and to maintain a policy relating to the employment of ex-offenders in order to ensure such persons do not pose a risk to the safety of the public. The remainder report sets out some additional elements that will also be included. And at paragraph 3.10, it just sets out the consultation requirements. So such updates and amendments to the Hackney Carriage and private hire licensing policy will require a short 2-week public consultation, which will be hosted online, and the results of the consultation and any responses received will be put to the chair and vice chair of the licensing committee, who in conjunction with the council solicitor can make any relevant changes to the draft policy and finalise that accordingly. However, if you'll see at paragraph 311, as stated in the statutory requirements, there is consensus that common core minimum standards are required to regulate better the taxi and private hire vehicle sector, and the recommendations in this document are the result of detailed discussion with the trade, regulators and safety campaign groups. So the recommendations do already arise from a great deal of consultation with the trade. So the department is therefore expects the recommendations to be implemented unless there are compelling local reasons not to. So members, if you turn to page 16 of the agenda, you'll see the recommendations there. There are 4 recommendations in all. The committee is asked to approve the proposed updates and amendments to the requirements placed on drivers, vehicle proprietors and operators seeking to hold or who currently hold a licence with the council. To approve the updates to the warnings, offences, cautions and convictions policy contained within the current policy in light of statutory guidance recommendations. To authorise the council solicitor to carry out consultation on the proposals detailed within this report, and then authority be given to the chair and vice chair of the committee in conjunction with the council solicitor to consider any responses to the consultation and make any relevant changes to the draft policy to finalise accordingly. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, could you please unmute your microphone?
Yes, thank you. Sorry. I've had to turn it off, James, because my parrot interrupts. Right. If you have got any questions or comments on this report, would you please indicate? Jim, you'd like to ask a question, I believe.
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask Mr. Wormold On page 15 of the document, item 4C says there are financial implications, reference 2151. Could Mr. Wormold please tell us what financial reference 2151 means, please? Would you hear that, please?
I can, yes. The fact that that's blank does mean that there are actually no financial implications. What we have to do with every report is get a financial and legal reference. So the finance team would look at it, and if there were any financial implications, they would be detailed there. For example, you know, if we were spending money that wasn't budgeted for or anything like that. So the fact that it's blank means there aren't any financial implications arising for the authority out of that. The only officer time that will be involved would be the short consultation and then updating the policy. So there isn't anything, any expenditure that isn't budgeted for that's involved in the report.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any more questions or comments, please, for Steve? I'm not seeing anyone else.
Councillor Presley would like to speak.
Right, David?
Thanks, Chair. Just to say, it's a good report. I did think it's very good at all. And Jim asked a question now I'm going to ask about costs. What I'm going to ask about is the whistle-blowing procedure, Steve. We've already got one in the council, which goes through the safety committee. Does this need to look at that?
No, the whistleblowing policy that we've got is obviously for staff within the council. So it's an internal document where issues could be raised within our internal system. This is one for people in the taxi trade to raise safeguarding issues with the licensing authority. So it's more of an externally focused one.
Sorry, Chair, but do we monitor that then? Because we're the authority that the whistleblower procedure comes to.
Yes, we will obviously monitor that. So this policy will enable people in the taxi trade to raise any safeguarding issues with us, and then we as the licensing authority can either deal with them or refer them through our safeguarding channels to be dealt with.
Steve, can I ask a question? It might sound a bit silly, but say somebody comes to work here on taxis from other areas out of Bassetlaw, does their DBS checks follow them?
Well, they wouldn't transfer a licence, they'd make a new application to us, so they would have to be DBS checked at that point. And then obviously the new procedures, if they're approved, will then apply where their DBS will be checked every 6 months. Right,
thank you. Are we voting on?
Chair, can I just a point of information? Well, it's not information really for Steve.
Can you indicate when you want
I have done, Chair. I have done, Chair.
It's not come up.
My hand is up. If you look,
indicate then.
If you look on the list of people in the room, my hand is up.
Right. Well, I have not seen it. Okay. Carry on.
You. Right, Steve. Just on page 103, just for your information, there's a typo. The bottom line, page 103. It says where employees of Rushcliffe Borough Council, so it obviously needs to be Bassetlaw District Council. So all the rest says Bassetlaw District Council, but on that one it says Rushcliffe. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Clarkson. We'll get that amended.
Sorry about that.
Councillor Tyndall was indicating.
Right. Clayton.
There might be another typo on 4D, the date reference, if it is a date reference. I've got page 15.
Oh yeah, that's the legal reference, so it's a unique reference. So yeah, that is the correct reference for it.
That's fine. I thought it was a date. That's all.
No, it's a unique reference number.
Are there any more people that would like to speak before we move on? Are we having a vote on this, Steve?
Just on the consultation, Chairman. On the consultation. I can't remember, how long would it last, Chair?
Sorry, through you, Chair, it's just a 2-week consultation, Councillor Presley.
That's good then. Thank you, Chair.
Right. So are we having a vote on this, Steve?
Yes, Chair, you need to vote on the recommendations.
The recommendations are on page 16. Are we going to do this? Am I going to go through a roll of asking for or against?
Yes, I think so, Chair. Just go around the members.
Right. Councillor Anderson.
Yes, Chair. For the recommendations in full as listed on page 16, please.
Recommendations
in full as listed on page 16.
Right. Councillor Clarkson.
In favour of everything, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Eaton.
In favour of everything. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Greaves.
For, Chair.
Councillor Izzard. Councillor Izzard.
Councillor Izzard, can you unmute your microphone, please?
In favour.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Presley.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Richards.
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Tyndall.
In favour, Chair.
And I'm in favour myself. Right, so we'll just turn this page. There's nobody against this recommendation, and there's nobody wishing to abstain. So it's carried. Okay. Can the facilitator please confirm whether there are any attendees for the report of agenda item 7A?
Chair, if I can just, sorry, Chair, if I could just come in there. I've spoken to the gentleman, Mr. Perkins, yesterday. He stated, unfortunately, that he had a couple of jobs this evening that he couldn't turn down, obviously, because of the current position we're in. So he won't be attending the meeting.
Right, thank you. Agenda item number 7A is reports of the Senior Licensing Officer request for permission to display advertisements on a private hire vehicle by MP Travel Workshop, pages 121 to 126 of your agenda. Would you like to outline the report, please, Senior Licensing Officer? Roland?
Thank you, Chair. Just before I start that report, just going back to the pavement licences, if I may, I've managed to locate the licences issued for Councillor Presley, and we have a pavement licence issued for La Rocca at the Malthouse, the Honey and Fig, Town's Best Cafe, the Pocket, and the Lion. That's all the licences that are currently issued at the moment. So thank you, Chair. Then reverting back to the agenda, item 7A, which starts at page 121 of the agenda. It's an application made by MP Travel Workshop for permission to display advertising signage on his licensed vehicle. Mr. Perkins is a licensed driver and is the owner of MP Travel Workshop and has held a private hire operator's licence since March of this year. The advertisement signage Mr. Perkins wishes to display on his vehicle is shown at Appendix A and is included in the report at page 125. The private hire vehicle conditions attached to a private hire vehicle licence state that any advertisements on the vehicle shall be confined to a notice fixed to one or both of the front doors of panel of the vehicle and contain the name of the operator and the telephone number of the operator. The design of the notices shall be approved by a council. and that no other advertising material shall be exhibited on the vehicle without the prior written consent of the council. Any request for such consent shall be reserved for consideration and a decision by the council's licensing committee. Members are therefore asked to consider this request made in this report and either refuse the application or grant the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Roland. Is anybody against these recommendations or wishing? Oh, sorry. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Chair, if I can.
David.
Yes, we get a few of these, Roland, don't we? Do we ever refuse them?
No. Very rare.
I would have to refer to the council solicitor for that one. Obviously, he's been in service a lot longer than I have, but not to my knowledge.
No.
No, not to mine either, Chair. I don't recall one being refused.
And neither mine, Steve. I don't either. Is there any more questions?
Thanks, Chair. That's interesting.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? Anybody indicating, James?
No one else has indicated to speak by putting their hand up.
Right. And there's nothing that's come on the indicator on my iPad. Could you please remind? Oh, sorry. The recommendations are on page 123. Is anybody against these recommendations or wishing to abstain? I'll go through it again. Jim Anderson.
For the recommendation, Chair. Support.
Thank you. Gary Clarkson.
I'm for the recommendation to grant the application.
Thank you, Gary. Councillor Eaton.
For the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Greaves.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Izzard.
Grant the application.
Thank you. Councillor Presley.
For the recommendation, Chair.
Councillor Richards.
Grant the application, Chair.
Councillor Tyndall.
For the recommendation, Chair.
And I myself are for. Thank you. I don't think you need to confirm that the attendee has left the meeting, James. Is that right? Because he didn't attend.
That's correct, Chair.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8 is section B. Items for discussion in private. The live stream will shortly be stopped as we move to the confidential items. I would like to thank anyone who has been watching the live stream meeting. Can I please confirm that in accordance with Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972, and after considering the public interest test as set out by the officer in the body of the report, members agree that the following items of business involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1. And therefore, in accordance with section 100A of the Act, the press and public be excluded from the meeting. Are members happy with the course of action? Yeah? At this point, the live stream will be stopped as the confidential item